Since the beginning of time, there's been a quest to be the best in competition. In the sport of baseball, ultimate victory is symbolized with a piece of metal called the Commissioner's Trophy. It is awarded at the end of the season to the team that has outlasted all the others. In 1990, it belonged to the Cincinnati Reds. It is my contention that a player named Alfredo Griffin was the sole reason that the LA Dodgers did not win that championship. Hi, and welcome to Missed It by How Much. Here we use a computer game engine to test sports hypothesis. So, what kind of player was Alfredo Griffin? This shortstop was a slick fielder who couldn't hit. The former Rookie of the Year was traded to the Dodgers, and his defense contributed to the 1988 championship. However, by 1990, his batting had fallen to .210, or a runs created per 27 of 2.1 average, and a fielding percentage of only .959. It's my contention that Mike Sharperson should have had his at-bats. His fielding percentage in a small sample size was .977, but his batting was far superior, with a .297 average and an average runs created 27 of 5.3. The Los Angeles Dodgers lost the division in 1990 by 5 games. They had a plus-minus in runs of 43, while the eventual champion Reds had 96. The Dodgers lineup was led by future Hall of Famer Eddie Murray and healthy slugger Cal Daniels, both of them with an OPS plus of over 150. The entire lineup was over 100 virtually, except for Juan Samuel, who just missed it. It's my contention, if this lineup had a more quality at bats at shortstop, there were other people to fill in, and the Dodgers would have averaged over 5 runs a game, which would have allowed them to score more runs and win more games, as their total runs scored was only 5 behind the mighty Oakland A's, who ended up in the World Championship Series. I will be using Dave Cook's Action PC baseball game to test my theory. I've watched many other creators use as-played lineups to get their results in replaying a season. I wanted an option that allowed for the computer to adjust the team's strategy just as I will do. To do that, I'm going to use the no transaction quick setup option. All players who played on a team will be available at any time. The user or computer manager sets the active roster, lineup, and starting pitcher for each game. Injuries may occur. This also allows you to set the 40-man roster and decide which players will be active and inactive. Managing a pitching staff is a delicate balance of trying to win today while also looking at which arms would be available tomorrow. As played locks in your starter, when it would be smarter to skip a start due to your team's standings. No transaction also allows my team, as well as the computer's GM, to replace injuries or poor play with their choice, not the as-played choice. Going through the other parts of the setup, I chose to not allow rainouts to keep the schedule the same. I also decided on a maximum injury length of 15 days because I want to see the players the best players from each of the teams to decide the final result. Did not touch the usage rules because whatever happened previously should not have a bearing on this season, since the computer and myself are going to be controlling who's playing and how often. The rest of these functions are virtually the same. Under Tools, I chose to combine players that have been traded during the season, instead of just allowing two halves or parts of a player to be on two different teams. And I had that player set with the team that he played with the most. So this was checked. The reason I did this is partially because I've had trouble with how teams tank or trade off players who deserve to stay in the city they've been with the majority of their career and retire there. That has really bothered me. For example, on this trade on August 3rd, 1990, where the Atlanta Braves traded Dale Murphy to the Phillies for future minor league players who may or may not turn into a major leaguer. I put Dale Murphy back on the Braves for the entire season. I also moved the other players back to Philadelphia if that was needed based on when they came up during the season, if they came up at all. This allows players such as Willie McGee or Harold Baines to finish their careers with the team that they are on this year, which I feel is a fair way of finding out who's the best team. Also, a major criticism of the game involves when the computer manager pulls the pitchers, that they might leave them in too long. So I decided to go to the manager setting, and it's been common practice or belief on boards and other comments that they feel most players of this game feel like the starters should be pulled after allowing 5 runs, so that's where I set this, and relievers after 1. I don't necessarily agree with this. We're going to try it and see how it goes, just like the 15 days on the injury list. But it would allow teams to have a fighting chance and not hold on to players for too long. Under the draft setting, I'd like to show you the 2 players that I had to cut off of the Dodgers to make the 40-man roster, Luis Lopez and Pat Perry. We're going to wait and see once opening day begins what players will be cut from other teams. However, I don't anticipate trading because I really want to see if this team, as it's constructed, could win. While we run this season and go through to find out who would win in this marginalized season, I have to make note of the no-hitters that happened in this season. 9 of them occurred during the season. 7 were kept. The pitchers Melito Perez and Andy Hawkins had shortened no-hitters, 6 innings and 8 innings respectively. But also Mark Langston, along with Mike Witt, had a no-hitter. Nolan Ryan, Terry Mulholland, Fernando Valenzuela from the Dodgers, and Dave Stewart on the same day. Also Randy Johnson and Dave Stieb. It's my contention that while watching these games in a scouting report style, we may find a no-hitter or 2 occur. That would be interesting and exciting to me. As we go through the season, not only will you watch games that I have played, but we'll also watch other teams and enjoy all the players from this great season. As I play for the Dodgers, I will show you how I will construct my lineup through here, basically using the runs scored at each batting position versus right-handers and left-handers. We'll just go up and down the lineup, drag them over, and put them in. Eddie Murray, of course, will play and hit first, which is unusual since he was a cleanup hitter in his career. But my belief is, using this tool, would have had a lineup that would score more runs. In right field, Chris Gwynn will be the starter versus right-handers, where Kirk Gibson will play against lefties, but since he wasn't carded in right field, he will play center, and Stan Javier, who usually will be the center fielder, will play right. Mike Scioscia will catch. Lenny Harris will hit against right-handers at third base. We've talked about Sharperson. He will play shortstop. And Juan Samuel will play second base. In the beginning of the season, Willie Randolph was on the 1990 Dodgers for about the first month, and Samuel played out in center field. This will give more at-bats to a better hitter, since Randolph is on Oakland for the entire season. Along with this lineup, we'll save it here as the right-handed lineup. Pitching staff will also be the familiar names that Dodger fans would know, like Ramon Martinez, Fernando, Tim Belcher. Worrell Hershiser missed the majority of the season, where we will see if he will get to play more games than start only 4. However, his durability is a 1. So we will get to see how that works in the game system, how many games he will get to play or won't get to play. I have not played this game except for a few times as a practice game that you can see on the channel, and it'll be interesting to me to see how we end up with the scores that we do. Remember, I'm looking for 5 runs a game. On here, it's estimating that I will get 5.1 without the pitcher hitting. Speaking of pitchers hitting, I think while looking at the stats, I've uncovered something that will be interesting to look at as well, as Fernando Valenzuela had a great year hitting, especially against right-handers, with a 6.0 runs created 27. And I am flirting with the idea of using him in a Ohtani type of role, where he gets to pinch hit, he will bat earlier in the lineup. It'll be interesting to see, since his 6.0 versus right-handers would put him batting third in this lineup. I'm not going to try that, but I will be paying attention and using him in that sense. One last thing before we get to the games, and that is the report setting is very interesting to me. The batter versus pitcher matchup. So in the season that we're going to start next time, the San Diego Padres will play the first game against the Dodgers. And looking ahead, San Diego will be facing Ramon Martinez, while my lineup will be up against Ed Whitson. And using this breakdown, we should get a better idea of who will be successful against the opposing pitcher. So for Ramon Martinez, we're looking for Tony Gwynn with a great OPS, Alomar with a decent one. This Clark is not Jack Clark. It's I'll be paying attention, and if there's ever a time when during the game where I feel iffy on making a pitching move, remembering these players are particularly successful against my pitcher would be advantageous, I think, to winning, which is the goal. Also, if there are choices where I may feel like a player such as Hubie Brooks, who played a majority of the games in the season, who's now a backup on my team, fares especially well against a certain pitcher, I might move him into the lineup. Anyhow, I'm looking forward to this season. I'm excited to see if we can make up 6 games, win the division, and then since the Reds won the whole thing, taking on Oakland or Chicago with a full year Frank Thomas, Boston Red Sox or Toronto, who has that formidable outfield. Especially interesting will be the battle between the Pirates and the Mets. The Mets lost barely in this season by only 4 games, and they had a horrible start. One of the particular players I'll be paying attention to is how Dave Magadan plays. He was benched for most of the beginning of the season and went on to hit well over 300 at first base. All of these things seem interesting to me in this season, and I hope you come along to join. See you next time.